It is so important to respect and to honor the experiences of those with lived experience because we've been there.
How can I talk to you about what it means to want to live, or what tools you could possibly use to save a person that's in your life without having gone through that myself?
You could be a loss survivor, someone died, in your circle. You could be an attempt survivor, you made an attempt for suicide. You could be a suicide ideation survivor, you've thought about it a lot. You could be a person who takes care of someone with suicide-centered experience.
My name is Jerry Reed, and I have been in the field of suicide prevention since about 1996. It was one of those hidden problems that maybe we weren't as a country mature enough to talk about, but we got mature very fast when we realized that people have lost a lot. At that time, there was about 30,000 people who were dying in this country every year by suicide.
This is important. People are dying. My peers are dying, and you're not paying attention. Those are like times where it felt like it had to happen. Something had to happen. Somebody had to say something. I'm DeQuincy Mayfrin-Lazine, suicide attempt survivor, a scholar, and an author. Not that long after I started getting involved is when when Congress said, yes, this is a national priority. And then quickly from there, they went to, yes, we should build a national strategy.
And the national strategy was released in 2001. So I would say, honestly, it was the voice of the loss survivor who kind of said, enough is enough. This is preventable in many cases. Let's lift the veil of secrecy and do something about it.
World Suicide Prevention Day, 2010. So I was at the hospital waiting for my son to be born, and also waiting for the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention to be launched. Action Alliance started putting together task forces, and we were able to put together a suicide attempt survivor task force, which was really exciting to have enough people who are attempt survivors engaged in suicide prevention at the national level, or willing to do it at a national level, to have our own task force, which was awesome.
And that was an important step. And then once that was done, after we raised awareness, we wrote this 2012 strategy, which incorporated a whole lot of new things like crisis lines and loss survivors and lived experience.
My name is Shelby Rowe, and I am the Executive Director and Principal Investigator for the Suicide Prevention Resource Center. I remember at the time I was working in prevention when the new national strategy came out in 2012. And I saw, looking online on the website, it's like, oh, they have a lived experience committee, and was very excited that our field was recognizing that, because everything up to that point had been fairly hush-hush. I had even been told by a couple mentors, they were like, well, if you have lived experience, if you have ever had thoughts of suicide or make an attempt, don't tell people, because it'll hurt your career chances.
We decided that we needed to express our core values, because they were somewhat different from what was in the national strategy, just in that we wanted to pull together some things that were more in the consumer, mental health consumer movement, recovery movement. So a lot of principles, just like having things like hope and, purpose and meaning, involving people who were family and friends of attempt survivors, having awareness of cultural traditions and faith traditions. And we had lots of discussions about the possible titles for it. And one of our members suggested The Way Forward.
And so it really set that framework. It really set the foundation for how our field needed to be better at including and respecting the life experience of those who had had their own personal struggles with suicide.
So my name is Isabel Garcia. I will say lived experiences, access to a very specific set of wisdom that only comes from firsthand contact experience. It's this sort of, you had to be there to understand. You had to be there. It's that type of sensation.
If you were taking a road trip and you were going on a road you had never been on and you didn't have Google Maps, asking someone who had been down that road is going to help you prepare for that journey. And so asking, each person who has had their personal experience, somehow they have made it through. And so listening and hearing, people say, well, just because you survived doesn't mean you know how to prevent suicide. And it's like, well, no, but I know how to prevent it for me. And this person knows how to prevent it for them. And there is some collective wisdom from hearing what it was that helped and what was happening at that moment.
So my name is Steele Kelly. We don't know what we don't know. We have to bring folks into the table that may have not traditionally had a voice. Maybe their perspective's a little bit different, or they're able to bring that knowledge that we don't have on those suicide-centered experiences.
My work is me. I am the work. All of my educational programs, all my trainings, workshops, circles, presentations, all of it are about my story. It is all about the lived experience.
I think lived experience reminds people that not only are they not alone, but someone else has been through this difficult part. My name is James R. Dixon. I've experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of suicidal ideation. I've been in war situations and seen really bad things at a very early age. I'm in this work because I think a part of me wants to serve.
I think that also having the possibility even of having a group of attempt survivors in a room multiple times and finding out that that was actually okay to do. Just that aspect had a resonance in the field because that opened the door for other groups, other organizations to do that as well, to pull together a group and to know that this can actually be okay. And even better than okay, this can actually have an impact on what we're doing and give a different perspective on things and change some language things that might not get picked up otherwise.
My name is Susie Reese, and I am the Director of Lived Experience Initiatives at the Suicide Prevention Resource Center. I've been personally impacted by suicide in more ways than I can count, and that gives me a different type of experience, a different type of knowledge and wisdom. And so by bringing us into these spaces, you're not only getting stories and terrible situations, and I think people often focus on that, you're getting strength. You're getting consistency. You're getting people that motivate themselves when they don't want to be. There's so much wisdom in the past that we've had to force for ourselves. And I think when we bring that back into the space is stronger.
When I came to the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, and one of my first tasks was put together a lived experience advisory committee. And so I did kind of reach out to different folks because we wanted to recruit people with lived experience from across the country.
I tell my story because it illustrates the impact of intergenerational trauma. I tell my story because it illustrates the impact of services that have gone awry or culturally irrelevant services.
My name is Colleen Solitis, and I am the Lived Experience Initiatives Engagement Manager for our Lived Experience Advisory Committee. I think that lived experience in the suicide prevention world has really been, there's little whispers about it everywhere. It's really come to the forefront that why haven't we been doing this? Why haven't we been centering lived experience? I think that it's become important for so many organizations.
My name's Tom Cruise. I still think there's a stigma. I still think we're behind on social media, and that's just because social media changes so fast, and the platforms change, the audience changes, and how you got to go at each one of them, which is unfortunately why we need a younger, fresher personnel in here. And there's so much potential out there with so much new people that want to share and help break the stigmas.
I think that there were a lot of fears in lots of different circles for different reasons. Everybody felt like people who had attempted suicide were fragile and needed to be safeguarded and taken care of and protected from everything. And then from the professional side, there were concerns about liability and that type of thing.
It's that in our culture, all of those experiences, you hit a lot of judgment and discrimination and stigma in different communities and assumptions, all of that. I'm Pata Sugimoto. I am the current chair of the Lived Experience Advisor Committee. I think it's important for people to pay attention to lived experience because it's kind of like you're not paying attention to the people who are most affected and most impacted by what you're doing. And that seems really ludicrous to me. Like, why would you not pay attention to the people that are most impacted? And I think it has to do with stigma and discrimination and judgment and all those things.
The issue is not my suicidality. The issue is the reactions from people and what they do when they hear the words, "I am suicidal." That's the issue. That has always been the issue for me. For me, suicidal thoughts have never been dangerous to me, have never made me feel fearful. What has made me fearful are people's reaction and then using control, coercion, retaliation in order to address it.
I've been on panels where I was the last person in a lineup right before lunch. They were running late. Everyone was waiting for lunch. And they forgot to say that I was Dr. Pata Sugimoto. They left off the doctor because how could a person with lived experience be a doctor?
In the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, our goal is to help build capacity across the nation for implementing the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention.
So we have a committee that we essentially insert into all of our projects. So say we're working on a project for an emergency department and it's maybe 10 pages of documents, and we are looking for a person who has either worked in an emergency department or maybe sought services there. It could be a number of things. And they help look at that content and tell us, this is missing, or this doesn't feel like it's speaking to me, or maybe my perspective needs to be over here or something like that. And they help us shape that content. So SPRC has a really unique program because, we are an organization that creates content. We create best practices. We offer guidance. We have learning courses. We have content that shapes, what others should be considering when they're doing the work that they're doing. We have all sorts of toolkits and all of these things that are geared at every type of perspective, every type of setting, whatever it is, wherever you work, whoever you are, there's something that we can help you understand when it comes to suicide.
We have committee members that are influencers. We have committee members that are clinicians and have worked as a clinician for a really long time. We have committee members that have worked with peer work. We have committee members that have built peer programs entirely. They're all leaders in the field in some way.
I've worked on a toolkit for a national 988 hotline, a couple of other projects, but it's been just so humbling to be able to be a part of such great work, to also be included, to be able to talk and have my voice heard, and to be able to talk about how we could give that same voice to the rest of the lived experience community.
The people in LEAC want to see me thrive. I can talk about these things and meet other professionals that can help me find different interesting ways to do the work, something to bring back, something to share, even if it's just for us to sit and hold space with one another.
The fact that I am compensated, not only compensated in terms of emotions and da-da-da, and but money that I want to put out there, because many times, a lot of times actually, I am asked to do things for free. And I always wonder, what if I had a PhD? What if I was a researcher? What if? And so the fact that I don't have to question that is a big relief.
They are experts in their own experience. And if they are making our products better, we need to recognize and compensate for that.
We're not necessarily just sharing people's stories. We do that on occasion, but most of the time we're really trying to help people with technical assistance or knowledge or things like that.
Most people who have been suicidal will recover to some degree. Most will, like 90% of people will. Recovery should just be our expectation.
We inform, but we also want to, in terms of growth, have things come from us. Like, what does the field need from the lived experience space? And I think that's what we're working on now.
What we need to do is continue with the LEAC, keep pushing this message forward, and then what group's going to be next that's going to come to the table and be like, you know what? And it's all testing. Like, we'll test it out. We'll see how you do for our group, and then we'll jump on the bandwagon. So I think we're doing good.
On our SPRC website, there are 5 things that are crucial to the key to the success of your prevention program. And one of the things on the key is center lived experience. If you are going to the store and it's really urgent, you never forget your keys, because you know the keys are important to your journey to the store.
Because you need us. There's missing information. When you don't have lived experience at the table, there is a ton of context missing. You can have the theory, the framework, but where's the real life experience? That's the heart.
So I would love to see organizations over the next 5 years really engaging those with lived experience on each and every project. I think that's huge. That will bring just so much perspective, and it'll build connections, relationships.
It brings a richness and a depth to the work, and it broadens the potential questions that are being asked.
And it feels so wonderful that we, in a big country like this, in a big world like this, we were able to dive in, drill down, and make change happen. So I would just say, stay the course, go the distance.
I just think we need to talk about it. Like, as a culture and as a society, we need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about suicide-centered experiences. We need to be able to share this without flinching and, oh my God.
And I have no doubt that in 10 more years, when the next national strategy is written, that the foundation that's been set up to this point, they will build skyscrapers unimaginable on our foundations.